Before the bright lights, before the massive stadiums, before millions of fans watched them compete at SummerSlam, these 7 legends had already stepped through one of the most unforgiving proving grounds in professional wrestling, the ECW arena. ECW didn't just create hardcore wrestling, it created characters, rivalries, and performers who prepared to take over the entire industry. Today, we're looking at 7 stars who went from fighting inside the ECW arena to creating unforgettable moments at SummerSlam. Wrestler number 1 that went from ECW arena to SummerSlam was Mick Foley. Before he became Mankind, a WWE champion and one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, Mick Foley entered the ECW as Cactus Jack. But Foley's greatest contribution to ECW wasn't simply taking punishment, it was challenging what hardcore wrestling was supposed to mean. During his legendary rivalry with Tommy Dreamer, Cactus Jack turned against ECW audience and began preaching against hardcore wrestling. He begged Dreamer to leave ECW and accept an opportunity with a larger company. Dreamer refused. To Tommy Dreamer, ECW wasn't a stepping stone, it was home. Their feud became a battle over the identity of ECW itself. Then at SummerSlam 1997, Foley competed as Mankind against Triple H inside a steel cage. Mankind escaped the cage, climbing back to the top, and delivered an elbow drop that reminded the WWE audience exactly what Cactus Jack was capable of. From battling Tommy Dreamer over the soul of ECW to battling Triple H inside a steel cage, Mick Foley proved that hardcore was never about weapons. It was more about commitment. Wrestler number 2 is Rob Van Dam. When Rob Van Dam entered ECW, he was unlike anyone the promotion had ever seen before. He combined martial arts, aerial offense, and effortless confidence that made him believe he was already the biggest star in the company. And he eventually was. One of the biggest feuds that helped define RVD's rise was the war with Sabu. They began as opponents, became reluctant partners, and eventually formed one of ECW's most dangerous tag teams. Every match between them felt unpredictable. Both men were willing to risk everything to prove who was better. By 2001, Rob Van Dam had brought that same style to WWE. At SummerSlam, RVD faced Jeff Hardy in a ladder match for the Hardcore Championship. It was a perfect introduction to what made Van Dam special. 2 fearless athletes, 1 championship hanging above the ring, and a match built around creativity, risk, and controlled chaos. RVD defeated Hardy and walked out as the Hardcore Champion. From his wars with Sabu and ECW to climbing the ladder at SummerSlam, Rob Van Dam showed the world what he truly was, the whole effing show. The third wrestlers are the Dudley Boyz. Before becoming one of the most decorated tag teams in wrestling history, Bubba Ray and Divine Dudley were creating riots in ECW. The Dudleys didn't simply wrestle the audience's favorite teams, they insulted the fans, attacked their opponents, and turned every appearance into complete chaos. One of their greatest ECW feuds came against the Eliminators Perry Saturn and John Crotus. The Eliminators represented speed, innovation, and athleticism, and the Dudleys represented violence, intimidation, and power. Those battles helped transform Bubba Ray and Devon into one of the most complete tag teams in wrestling. Then came SummerSlam 2000. The Dudley Boyz faced Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys in the official tables, ladders, and chairs match, the very first one. Everything ECW had helped popularize was now being displayed on one of WWE's largest stages: tables, ladders, and chairs. Dangerous dives, breathtaking risks. The Dudley Boyz didn't win the championships that night, but they helped create a match that changed tag team wrestling forever. From battling the Eliminators in ECW to helping introduce TLC to the SummerSlam, the Dudley Boyz took the chaos of the ECW arena and delivered it to the entire world. Number 4 is Taz. In ECW, Taz wasn't presented as an ordinary professional wrestler. He's presented as a human weapon. After suffering a serious injury, Taz rebuilt himself physically and mentally. He returned with one objective: destroy everyone standing in his way. No feud defined that transformation more than his war with Sabu. For months, Taz called out Sabu. Sabu avoided him. Anticipation continued building until they finally collided at ECW's first pay-per-view, Barely Legal 1997. It felt like less than a wrestling match and more like 2 dangerous men settling a personal score. When Taz arrived in WWE, he carried that reputation with him. At SummerSlam 2000, he faced Jerry the King Lawler. Lawler had repeatedly mocked ECW and everything the promotion represented. That made the match feel bigger than Taz against Lawler. It felt like ECW against one of the most unspoken critics. With the help from Raven, Taz trapped Lawler in the Taz mission and left him unconscious. From hunting Sabu in ECW to silencing Jerry Lawler at SummerSlam, Taz brought the attitude and aggression of the ECW arena directly into the WWE. Beat me if you can, survive if I let you. Chris Jericho is number 5. Chris Jericho's ECW run was short, but it played an important role in his development. He arrived as a talented young wrestler still searching for his character that would eventually make him a worldwide star. One of the most fascinating ECW encounters came against Rob Van Dam at Big Apple Blizzard Blast 1996. The match was expected to showcase two future superstars. Instead, the chemistry wasn't there, and the hostile crowd turned on them, and that match was kept off ECW television. It became one of those known lost tapes. But neither wrestler allowed one difficult match to define his future. Jericho continued developing his personality, confidence, and connection with the audience. 5 years later, he entered SummerSlam 2001 against a former ECW standout, Rhino. The match was driven by Jericho's feud with Stephanie McMahon, who had aligned herself with Rhino during the Invasion storyline. Jericho defeated Rhino with the Walls of Jericho. From being rejected by the ECW audience during the lost match to becoming a WWE featured stars, one of the biggest WWE featured stars at SummerSlam, Chris Jericho proved that failure is sometimes just the first chapter of a much greater story. Number 6 is Eddie Guerrero. Before Eddie Guerrero became WWE champion, he was part of the wrestling revolution happening inside ECW. Eddie's feud with Dean Malenko showed ECW audiences hardcore wrestling didn't always require tables or chairs. Sometimes hardcore meant being one of the greatest technical wrestlers in the world. Guerrero and Malenko produced a series of matches built around speed, counters, submissions, and flawless execution. Their final ECW encounter became an emotional farewell as both men prepared to leave for WCW. Years later, Eddie Guerrero entered one of the most personal feuds of his career against Rey Mysterio. At SummerSlam 2005, Eddie faced Rey in a ladder match involving the custody papers of Rey's son Dominic. The storyline was controversial and deeply personal, but the match itself demonstrated Eddie's unmatched ability to make an audience feel something. Every moment mattered. Every climb up the ladder carried emotional weight. Eddie ultimately lost the match, but the performance showed why he had become one of the most captivating characters. From technical masterpieces against Dean Malenko to the SummerSlam's most personal ladder matches, Eddie Guerrero can make any story feel real. He lied, he cheated, he stole, and wrestling fans loved him for all of it. And the final one is my favorite wrestler, Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio's time at ECW helped introduce American audiences to a completely different style of professional wrestling. When Rey battled Psychosis, the two luchadors delivered speed, athleticism, aerial moves that many fans had never witnessed before. They didn't need weapons to create chaos. Their bodies became the weapons. Those matches influenced the cruiserweight revolution that would eventually spread through WCW and WWE. By SummerSlam 2005, Rey had become one of the most popular superstars. His feud with Eddie Guerrero began over competition and friendship before becoming intensely personal. The ladder match at SummerSlam wasn't about winning. It was about Rey fighting to protect his family. Eddie repeatedly attempted to climb the ladder, but Rey refused to stay down. With the assistance of Eddie's wife, Vicky Guerrero, Rey retrieved the custody papers and won the match. From introducing Lucha Libre to the ECW arena to fighting for the family at SummerSlam, Rey Mysterio proved that the smallest competitor could carry the biggest heart. ECW may never have had WWE's production budget. It didn't have the stadiums, it didn't have the corporate machine, but it had something just as powerful. It had an opportunity. The ECW arena became a proving ground where wrestlers could discover who they truly were. Mick Foley found the power of storytelling. Rob Van Dam became the whole effing show. The Dudley Boyz became tag team legends. Taz became a human wrecking machine. Chris Jericho learned how to overcome rejection. Eddie Guerrero displayed his technical greatness, and Rey Mysterio helped revolutionize American wrestling. They had started inside a bingo hall in Philadelphia, but their talent eventually carried them to one of the biggest parties of the summer. From the ECW arena to SummerSlam, I'm Danny D, the hardcore historian. Tell me in the comments, which former ECW star created the greatest SummerSlam moment? And remember, hardcore isn't always about tables, chairs, and blood. Hardcore is a mindset and a lifestyle. Stay hardcore, my friends. We'll see you guys in the next video.